Alfie Mincy. I am the program coordinator for the South Carolina National Guard College Assistance Program and Veterans Outreach. In her absence, Dr. Karen Woolfolk is the Director of Student Affairs here at the Commission on Higher Education, and I'll let my colleague introduce himself.
Good morning, all. My name is Mr. Paul Mead. I'm the CAP manager for the Army Guard. I'm here to answer any questions you may have regarding eligibility or anything of that nature regarding the Army side.
All right, and Senior Master Sergeant Monroe Kenneth, Senior Master Sergeant Kenneth Monroe, he may be running a few minutes late, but he is the National Guard representative for the Air National Guard. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the PowerPoint presentation. If you all have any questions, we will be monitoring the chat. Thank you to my colleagues, Tanya Weingold and Morgan Clinton, and some of our other colleagues here at CHE that will be on the call today as well. So they'll be helping us out with any of the questions that may be in the chat. So thank you again. We're going to go ahead and get started. So this is our new this particular session today is for new financial aid counselors, or for some of you guys that are veterans in this, and we appreciate you all coming out this morning. And we're going to cover some general information, some scenarios, and be able to assist you in answering any questions you may have. Okay, so first, let me give you some history about the South Carolina National Guard CAP program. Just a little history, it changed from being a student loan repayment program 2007 2008. And, the overview of the program, the purpose of CAP is provide financial assistance to eligible enlisted Air and Army Guard members. This program is administered by the Commission on Higher Education in consultation with the National Guard and the higher ed institutions in South Carolina. So I do want to cover where you can find more information about the CAP program on the CHE website. There are at least two ways to get information about CAP on the CHE website. You can go through the scholarships and grants page and click on students and families for military, and click on military veterans, and it will take you straight to the CAP webpage, or you can click on the military veteran page on the site. So this is basically how the regulations or information about CAP comes up on the scholarships and grant page. You can click that drop button. There is a QR code there if you have your phones out that can take you directly to the page. And also the link is available to the page for regulations. On the page of the CHE website for the South Carolina National Guard CAP program, it will basically give you a brief overview and also provide a PDF of the regulations. You can visit, and you'll see right there where the green arrow is, there's military and veterans page that will go in a little bit more detail CAP. On the military veterans page, it will basically provide information about the Air and Army National Guard CAP program. Also, there are links on this page with the CAP application, and also this particular page is information to take you to the Air and Army Guard actual physical websites. Just a FYI, you'll see that that the CAP regulations that are circled, but also on this site, you'll see our spring application. We'll talk a little bit more about that shortly, but there'll be a spring application period opening up on November the 20th, and we'll discuss that a little bit later in the workshop. So let's start first. We're going to give some information that pertains to the South Carolina National Guard CAP program. We're going to take a quick, deeper dive into CAP and cover some general information and give you a few scenarios of real life scenarios. All of the institutions are anonymous, but these are some real life scenarios that encountered over the last year or so, please feel free, please feel free to use the chat if you have any questions. So let's get started. All right, so some general definitions. Academic year. These are located in our regulations in 62-251A. Academic year shall be defined as the beginning 12-month period as defined by the institution awarding financial aid, which includes your regular terms, fall, spring, trimester, fall 1, fall 2, summer, or any combination thereof. So another definition is home institution. This should mean the institution where the student is currently enrolled as a degree-seeking student and may be eligible for financial aid. Many of our CAP students list their home institutions on their CAP applications. Some of you may encounter students on your list who never enrolled or applied to your institution, but those students may have put your institution on their CAP application. That's why they come up on your list on the portal. Those students that enroll at a different school than what's on their CAP application should contact the guards. They should be contacting Mr. Mead or Senior Master Monroe to do a request of change, a request form of change to indicate to them that they are not going to the home institution on their application, but somewhere else. So that is just something that we are really trying to encourage. And I know Mr. Mead and Senior Sergeant Monroe really emphasize that they do the change of request form to indicate where their home institution is. Do you want to chime into that, Mr. Mead?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit more. Those, as I said, those students that enrolled at a different school than what's on their CAP application should contact the Air and Army National Guard representatives, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later. So another general definition is eligible program of study. We receive a lot of calls, but this is basically what the regulations define as eligible programs of studies at your institutions. I'm not going to go over all of these, but just kind of pinpoint a few. Less than a one-year certificate or certification that's approved, courses completed as an education and program of registered apprenticeships. We're hoping in the next year we'll be able to share more information about apprenticeship programs. We are working with the state technical college system with Carolina apprenticeships. And so we're hoping that's another avenue that CAP students, eligible CAP students can use during their apprenticeships. Also, any education program that leads to a certificate or a diploma, first associate's degree or second associate's degree earned at a minimum of 5 years after the first associate's degree, a 2-year program that's acceptable for full credit towards the first bachelor's degree or the student's first bachelor's degree. Another point is that you cannot use CAP funds for a graduate degree. So if a student is going into a graduate program, they are not eligible to use CAP funds. And then also students may not receive CAP funds at more than one institution during the same term. Where students are enrolled in more than one institution during a semester, the benefit will only be received at the student, institution. It's very important. We get a lot of questions, especially during the summertime, about students going to one institution in the spring and then going to another institution in the summer. CAP funds are only at the student's home institution. Anything you want to chime in, Mr. Mead?
Yeah, I've seen that as you said during the summer courses where soldiers might take one class at a technical college and then try to get CAP, and it's caused a lot of confusion in the past. So just be cognizant of if there are a transient student and there's that you may not be able to see CAP at your institution if they're home institution first.
Thank you, Mr. Mead. And we're going to make sure you guys can hear clearly, having some mic issues. As I said, if you have any questions in the chat, please let us know. Okay, so here are some general eligibility requirements to receive CAP funds. Who's eligible and who is not eligible? So who is eligible? For the South Carolina Army Air National Guard member and active drilling status. So for Army, members that complete basic combat training, BCT, and advanced basic training. Also for the air, the same is complete basic training or combat training and initial active duty training as well. Who is not eligible? Those are members that have been flagged for any reason, and those flags will come from the National Guard side. That will be nothing that CHE pulls up, but they would be basically flagged for something, obligation or something they have not met through the Guard. Also, members who have reached their maximum lifetime award amount, which is $22,000, approved by the Assembly, and we'll talk a little bit more about awards as well. And then also members who have received a bachelor's degree unless they're enrolled in an associate's degree or certificate program. So those are the general eligibility requirements for CAP students. If students have any questions, you can refer them. If they're not saying that they for CAP and did not receive it, of course, you can refer them to Mr. Mead or Senior Master Sergeant Monroe. If they are marked Y or as eligible, service member still has SAP, so they still have to meet the institution requirements, the academic progress at their current institution. A student could be a CAP eligible, but not meeting. So it's going to be communication. That's why it's so important for you all to update, for institutions to update, because the Army and Air National Guard will not know if students are not meeting satisfactory academic progress. So that's why it's very important that that information is updated on the portal, regardless if the student is enrolled or not. Sometimes we have students that, as I said earlier, that are CAP eligible, but they are not meeting satisfactory academic progress. All right. Some other general eligibility requirements. The members of the National Guard, as we said, have to be enrolled or planning to enroll in an eligible institution, and they may apply for benefits. Also, the college assistant program benefits may be applied and given priority to service members in critical needs area, and that is determined by the National Guard may determine as a critical needs area. So some additional things of general eligibility requirements. To qualify, an applicant must be in standing with the active National Guard at the beginning of each academic year and remain in good standing with the active with the National Guard through the entire academic year. Benefits are payable. They have to have valid tuition fees and expenses and maintain satisfactory academic progress, as we mentioned earlier. To continuation to qualify for eligibility, they have to be a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident. It's a definition of an eligible non-citizen under state resident statutes, be or enrolled as a degree-seeking student, full-time or part-time, and they must satisfy additional eligibility requirements as may be stated by the commission. So let me share a little bit with you about the application process and continuing eligibility. With this, new applications must be completed and each year identify the student's home institution and intent to enroll. The applications open up first at 11:59 p.m. and close August 1st. This is the general application window period. But last year, the 22-23 academic year, we established a new spring application period, which actually opened up November 20th at 11:59 and at 12:01 a.m. December 15th. This new spring application period is only, and I repeat, only for students that missed the first window or recently became eligible over the fall semester. So we did have some students last year that applied again for CAP and they were already eligible. So this is only for students that have missed the first application window. On the screen there is a QR code of our special spring application. You could also download this flyer as well, but of the spring application, that if you all could please share and post this flyer. I am going to send this out to you all via email, so that you can send it to all the students on campus. You can send it to your VA offices, and please note the application period is only for students who have missed the first deadline or have recently become eligible in August. Please share this flyer with our service members or those that may be interested in going hard. This would be a great incentive for them as well to get assistance. I think from a recent meeting that we actually had last year about 100 or so applicants, definitely with the Army National Guard, that applied during the spring application period. So you all will see students that were not on your fall list on the portal that will show up on your spring list. That could be a combination of transfer students as well that may transfer from fall to spring, but also it could be new students that are only eligible for CAP. So for continued eligibility, it's very important to be aware that you have more or less students on your list during the spring semester due to drops or transfers in between or students that have newly become eligible for CAP. For continued eligibility, must apply prior to the beginning of the fall term of each academic year by the established deadlines, which was June 1 to August 1 and November 20th to December 15. Now, about transfer students. Transfer students who are eligible prior to the beginning of the academic year for the college assistance program and then transfer mid-year to another eligible institution may be eligible to receive assistance in the spring term. Remember, they do need to do a change of request form with the National Guard, because if they do not, their name is not going to pop up on your list. So you may have students that come to your office and say, well, I was eligible for the National Guard or CAP at X institution, but why am I not getting it here? It could be they did not do the change of request form. And so they need to do that in order for them to be their information referred to your student list on the portal. Just a little note here that institutions verify enrollment every semester on the portal, fall, spring, and we'll talk a little bit about summer because of some differences, but for the summer, even if you don't have any CAP students enrolled, you still need to go on the portal and check, or you can shoot me an email to say, Alfie, I don't have any CAP students that are enrolled at my institution. That's part of our agreement and documentation with CHU partnership, that you do verify enrollment, because possibly with the spring, you could have a student, you could have not had any students in the fall, but you could end up having students in the spring or in the summer. Institutions need to check their portals every semester and verify enrollment and status. So we're going to give you some scenarios that listed here. So we had a school contact us with the following questions. At first glance, classes start August 23rd, 2023. Which of the following students will not be eligible for CAP 3? And then which of the following students will be eligible for CAP fall 2? Johnson and Baker will not be eligible for fall because classes had already started, but they can attend in fall 2, spring, or summer. Jones and Peter, they're good to go because their eligibility dates are before classes start. So I'm gonna give you guys, show you the answer that we responded. Mr. B was actually on this email with me, and this is basically the statement that we provided to the institution as a follow-up to our conversation with the Army National Guard. Service members in question are not currently eligible for the fall semester because their completion date of BCT or AIT was not until after classes. However, they will be eligible for CAP for fall 2, spring, and summer. If you have any questions, further questions, please contact Mr. Paul Mead or Senior Master Sergeant Monroe. So this was a real life scenario that actually happened with that. So your eligibility dates are definitely to pay very close attention to as you are working with your CAP students. For example, you all may have some students that pop up over this fall semester. That eligibility date may become September. I'm just throwing something out, Mr. Mead. But the semester has already started. They may miss fall too as well. So therefore, unless you have a trimester that's like in October, like a fall 3 or a winter session, otherwise than that, will only be eligible for spring and summer at that particular time. So those eligibility dates are there for a reason. Mr. Mead, could you kind of why those eligibility dates are there?
Yes, so until a soldier reaches that eligibility status of completing their training or whatnot, they're not eligible. They may have applied, but they're not eligible to receive any funding. Once they complete it, then I get the notification, then I'll enter them into the web portal, and into the eligibility date, I'll put the date that they're eligible. As Ms. Mincy said earlier, it depends on when the class start dates. Most classes start in August. There are some that have a second fall term. Then they may fall into that category. But pretty much everybody that I'm approving now, I put 2 in today, they're not eligible until spring of 2024. If you ever have any questions regarding an eligibility day or verification of, like a name change or whatnot, you can also feel free to email me if it's Army. I cannot see any Air Guard, but if it's Army, you can shoot it to me also, and I'll provide the information requested.
Thank you. Mr. Mead and I, we are constantly talking. So of course, if you can CC me on and, follow with him as well. And then for the Air Guard, it will be Senior Master Sergeant Monroe. To cover a little bit in our regulations about administration audits, I know we had some audit questions early. Each institution must have an institutional rep or designee for the National Guard. Usually your chief executive officer or your president should identify who this person is on campus. And we need to know that there is a point of contact for the Carolina National Guard CAP program in the financial aid office, as well as in the finance office or finance office, and your institutional research. If there are the individuals that upload disbursement files, we want to be able to communicate with everyone. On the screen, there's a QR code for the point of contact form for the National Guard. If you guys have a new hire or there's some staffing changes in your office, it's very important that you notify our office so that we can make those changes on the listserv, and that we're communicating with the correct individuals that are in your department or working with the program. Some other key areas with administration and office, the Commission on Higher Education shall be responsible for the allocation of funds or publicly announcing guidelines and regulations. Any audit or oversights may be deemed necessary to monitor the expenditures of funds. So this other program administration to what the CHE is responsible for. So let's look at this part. What is the National Guard responsible? So CHE is responsible for publicly announcing and posting and sharing policy procedures along with the Guard, but the Guard are in particular responsible for continue their service with the Guard for at least 4 years after completion. They're responsible for any student appeals. So if a student said, why am I not getting CAP? You please inform them, please contact the National Guard representative, Mr. Mead, or Senior Master Sergeant Monroe for the air. Also responsible for providing the list of eligible Guard members. So actually, students submit their application, how many ever hundreds of CAP applications that they get, the Guard is responsible, or they review the application, make sure there are no flagging actions, and determine if those particular students are eligible, and that's how they show up on your list on the portal. Some additional program mission administration and audit. CHE and National Guard, as I mentioned earlier, are in partnership. but record keeping is very, very important. Therefore, institutions, all independent and public institutions, must abide by program policy, rules, and regulations. Institutions also agree to maintain and provide all pertinent information, records, and reports, or any information that's required or requested by the commission or by the General Assembly to ensure proper administration of the program. So record keeping is very important. The portal itself is a record keeper in itself, but also we are advised or encourage institutions internally keeping records of the students that are in CAP. Just very briefly, we want to kind of cover military mobilization. We do know some Guard may become active and have to serve throughout this within the semester. Service members will not be penalized for any credit hours earned while on military mobilization. So it's very important. They also need to provide those orders to the institutions. You all have that information on file, but additionally, the service members should not or will not be penalized for any credit hours earned while on military mobilization. Also, service members who did not use the like if they are active for a whole academic year, because military mobilization can happen a semester, or they can get orders to go for an entire year. But if that is the case, service members who do not use the college assistant program benefits or terms of eligibility during the period due to military mobilization shall be allowed to receive the college assistant benefit during the succeeding year. So they'll still be eligible. They're still meeting eligibility requirements with the Guard. They will still be eligible. Of course, they have to make sure they're meeting the renewal for the next academic in accordance to our regulations. So just to kind of give you all some revisions of our statutes and regulations, regulatory amendments that have happened over the course of the program. ROTC now can receive full scholarship, that we have a full scholarship definition for the ROTC students. Also, the eligibility for service members with a bachelor's degree or certificate, they can pursue, if they have a bachelor's degree, they can pursue a lesser certificate like a certification or a second associate's degree. And that was approved by the General Assembly. That was back in 2021. Also, the exception to policy for required for training, that was also approved by the General Assembly back in 2020. And so that is a revision that has been to the statute. The most recent provisos that are available, and we want to make sure everyone is aware of this. This is just recent, but there's the removal of the 130 credit hour. This is currently still in proviso. We are working with the General Assembly to put this in law, but right now this proviso trumps the 130 credit hour limit. So there is no longer a 130 credit hour limit for the service member. They can have 135 credit hours and they're still eligible for CAP. That's no longer something that institutions have to track. Now that information is still available on the portal. You can choose to keep tracking that, but it's no longer required to track that information in the portal anymore. Some institutions are doing it. It's just you're not penalized if you don't put those the cumulative credit hours in the portal anymore. But you do still need to make putting the current or attempted credit hours they're attempting each semester in the portal because that determines how much they're going to receive as an award. Also, the maximum lifetime award amount and lifetime of eligibility is now $22,000. It used to be $18,000, and this is currently under proviso under the General Assembly. So the maximum lifetime award amount for CAP students is now $22,000. I do want to make you all very mindful. Some of the students that were close to 15 or to 16 now are getting close to 22. So it's very important that you are monitoring their award amount. Your disbursement files that you submit to CHE actually uploads to the portal and indicates how much each individual student has received in CAP funds. So as you're going through and looking at students, make sure you see those students that award amounts, total award amounts are getting into the 16,000 or 17,000 or even to 18,000. Continue to monitor that because we recently just this year notified Mr. Mead and Senior Master Sergeant Monroe we had some soldiers, that reached the maximum lifetime amount this year. And so even though they were cap eligible, they were no longer eligible because they reached the maximum lifetime amount. So since we're talking about that, about program benefits and maximum assistance, we're going to provide us an additional scenario about this as well. Program benefits in combination with all other grants and scholarships shall not exceed the cost of attendance at a particular eligible institution in any given award year. Also, the maximum amount per award year may be reduced if in combination with other financial aid, the cumulative total of all aid received exceeds the cost of. So some more information about benefits and maximum assistance. The annual maximum grant will be determined prior to the beginning of the year. So every fall semester, you'll get an email as you all did back in August, to say this is the maximum award amount of lifetime, 22,000, and then a breakdown of a chart. If you all would like to scan the QR code, this is basically a table for the Air and Army National Guard of the breakdown amounts based on credit hours. Now, there's a difference in all the technical colleges or two-year programs already know that the Air Guard receive a different amount at a two-year program. Their award amount per academic year is 1,000 or 55 per term, but the lifetime and maximum amount is still 22,000. At all other institutions, the Air and Army at a four-year public institutions, the Air and Army are both the same. It's $2,750 per term or $5,500 per year. Just a quick caveat in reference to students with disabilities must provide written documentation to the Office of Financial Aid prior to academic year, verify is approved to be enrolled in less than full-time status, and then the institution is responsible for retaining appropriate documentation according to the institutional policies if you have a service member that is that has a documented disability. We want to cover this information just so that you all have our is information in our regulations about termination of institution participation. This is basically if you're not documenting or you're not in compliance of following the policies and procedures, that your institution may not be able to institute this, implement this program at your institution. So basically that's an what these particular suspensions and terminations of institutional participation. This is a quick snippet, excuse me, of the annual application review reporting process. Kind of talked about it, but I wanted to, for those visual learners that are on the call today, to kind of give you a visual picture of how a service member comes into the CAP all the way through to where CHE within the awarding and reviewing process. And so the service member applies, the Air and Army Guard documents, the institution awards, CHE reviews, to go back to institution awards, institution rewarding, the institution reviews the student status and invoicing to CHE, and then CHE verifies eligibility that you put on the and compare and reconcile the invoice and the portal and what you submit to SHENS. And again, to the technical colleges, whatever you submit to State Tech, your scholarship file you submit to State Tech, we do go through and compare your invoicing to what your disbursement files are. This is a semester process besides the application period, because they only apply twice a year, especially with that new window. But the other two steps, rewarding and reviewing, happens each semester. And so if there are any discrepancies with either invoicing or uploading their files, I do notify the institutions of those discrepancies that need to be fixed by the next upload. So really quickly, we've been talking about the portal, but for those that are new on the call, institutions will receive of CAP eligible students through the through the web portal. There are two lists on the portal. The first list is Search for National Guard students. That is a list of all eligible students in CAP. And those students will have, any student that never received CAP is going to be on that list, but very important to look at the eligibility. All the students that are eligible will have a Y under eligibility status. The next list is the update of the students. This where there is a blank field where you will upload, where you will actually update the award amounts and credit hours that are being attempted and SAP status. One quick snippet, and I just got a couple of emails because deadlines are coming up for you all to verify your enrollment for fall 2. Please remember that your passwords will be deactivated after 60 days of inactivity. So you will actually have to contact me or send me an email, and we will have to contact the CHE help desk to reset your passwords. So we really encourage you to try to go onto the portal at least twice a semester, not just at one time in the beginning of the semester and that's it. I will highly recommend and encourage to go on the portal before your invoicing or you submit your invoices, just to make sure on the portal matches what is being invoiced. So please try to log in 2 or 3 times if you can. And I know you all have very busy schedules because you have other awarding to do, but just remember, and I believe this is the same for Palmetto Fellows, is as well, you will be deactivated after 60 days of inactivity. So this is just a quick snippet of how the portal goes. This is your username and your password. And then to verify student enrollment is 3 easy steps. You log in, we advise you to go check for a Search for National Student Guard link first, and then sort your list by Y eligibility toggle at the top, and all your Y eligible students will come into the list. Then after you check that, because one of the things you are going to need to do in step 2 is you're going to have to update your National Guard students' data. It is very important to click that refresh button because that is going to transfer all the students onto your list. Now, a disclaimer here, the system does refresh daily at 12 p.m. and 4 o'clock p.m. If you see a difference from the National Guard student list and your update student list, give it some time, let the system update. We had some questions this upcoming fall, and that list was updated, that all the students by 4 o'clock was updated in the system. If for some reason that doesn't happen, please contact me and we can contact the help desk to see what the problem is. But that is step 2. You click the refresh screen. Once the refresh screen is updated, you'll go in and fill in all your information. And step 3, you update the reporter with the required fields. You will do this in the fall and spring. Exception. In the summer, currently the portal does not have the functionality for the summer. So when you verify your students, you're going to have to look at your most recent list, which will be spring, verify what students that are going to be enrolled and submit a eligibility verification worksheet directly to me, and then I will send it to the guard to make sure those students have continued eligibility for the summer. This is only for the summer. We are working on an enhancement to ensure that for the summer the portal can be open and you won't have to send a whole separate spreadsheet to me during the summer. Everything can be done in the portal. So we are working on that to make things easier for you all. So this is just a quick snippet of how everything looks on the portal, where it's search for students and update National Guard students, and that refresh button. Remember, the refresh button will transfer your students over. Do not leave any fields blank. Only, I would say you would leave fields blank if the student is not enrolled. You put it in, and then all the other fields will be left blank. But otherwise than that, you need to make sure that all fields are completed. Also, check the portal before submitting invoices. That's very important. So just to kind of give you guys, we are wrapping up in the next 5 minutes. This is just showing you some deadlines to update the portal for fall to actually October the 20th. That is the deadline to update the portal. There are some institutions that have not even gone on the portal for the fall semester. And as I said earlier, even if you have not had a student come to you, say, I'm supposed to get capped, every institution should check every semester to see if they have any CAP eligible students. As Mr. Mead said, he just had 2 students just this week that have become eligible. It may be at your institution, so you need to make sure that you're checking the portal and clicking refresh to see if you have any eligible students, especially after the spring application period. You more than likely may have some new students on your list that were not there for the fall. So all this information has been shared with you all at the beginning of August. I do try my best to send reminders to you all about this. And just a note, a request of funds or invoice cannot be processed since the eligibility of verification information has been updated on the portal. So I will not be able to process your invoices if you have not updated the portal. And also, you also need to make sure you have attached a student list that should be reflective of what's in the portal, but a student list should be attached to your invoice along with the student's name, the credit hours that they attempted, and the award amount for each student. So one additional scenario I have for you. So the inquiry, this was an inquiry from a 2-year institution. We have a full-time student taking 12 credit hours who is eligible for life, CAP, and Pell. After determining, based on the student's cost of attendance and that's the amount, his eligibility or eligible for maximum Pell Grant was $7,395, and the South Carolina Air National Guard amount assistance was $11,000. This is a 2-year institution, and so this is probably more than like an Air Guard student because that's what they receive if they're in the air. The student is still awarded based on his CAP, Air National Guard, and Pell awards. Do we reduce the CAP award National Guard amount, by $5,626 so that his total aid does not exceed his cost of attendance, or is there some provision to permit him to keep the Air National Guard College Assistant Award amount of $11,000? The answer to the scenario, CAP benefits in combination with other grants and scholarships shall not exceed the cost of attendance. The benefit maximum award year may be reduced if in combination with other financial aid, the cumulative total of all aid received would exceed the cost of attendance. So you can reduce the CAP award amount. So just to quickly talk about institution disbursement of funds, after the last day to register for each term, we ask you to check your eligibility dates before. Also, the institution must submit a request for funds or return of funds by the established deadlines. And I have another slide with those deadlines of when you have to submit or request forms. A listing of eligible recipients along with their names, the credit hours that they have attended, and the award amounts should be attached to your invoice. At this time, any unused funds must be returned to the commission immediately if for some reason there have been any changes to the student's enrollment and the invoices have already been paid. Benefits and disbursements. In the event a student withdraws or drops below eligibility requirements after the institution's refund period and therefore must pay tuition and fees for full-time or less time enrollment, the benefits may be retained to the refund policies of the institution. In the event that a student that has received benefit withdrawals is suspended, ineligible under section 62253 or otherwise becomes ineligible, the institution must reimburse the College Assistant Program, CHE, for the amount of the benefit for the applicable term. Okay, so these are the deadlines to submit and request funds. I will be sending out an email reminder to you all. November the 17th, invoicing for fall 23 needs to be submitted no later than November the 17th. And these are the remaining deadlines for the upcoming spring and summer. So as soon as you get your invoicing in, you need to make sure you're coordinating with your finance department at your institution to make sure whatever is reflective in the portal is reflective in the on the invoice. We know submitting files to Shemus is just a screenshot at that particular time. So we, what I try to do during reconciliation is to notify you all that there is a discrepancy, and you have the opportunity in the next upload. And this is next, I'll go to the next slide in a minute, but in the next upload, you will want to make sure that you have, excuse me, I was going ahead of myself. In the next upload, you want to make sure that you have made corrections to that file to make sure it matches your invoice. Because if you are audited, you want to make sure whatever you've been invoiced for does match the portal. I'm not sure if we have time for the next scenario, but I'm just gonna show you guys an additional scenario. If you give me a second. I'm going back, sorry. But we had a similar situation about a student withdrawing and them receiving their CAP funds. We do go by the institutional policies of the drop ad. So in the event a student withdraws or drops below eligibility requirements after the institution's refund period and therefore must pay tuition fees for full or less than full-time enrollment, the benefits may be retained according to the refund policy of the institution. So in this particular scenario, the student had already withdrew after the drop ad period. They had already charged for tuition fees. Their CAP funds can be issued, but the student will not receive any kind of refund. The CAP will just cover the cost of what those courses, the balance owed on those particular classes, but the student will not get a refund. These are the deadlines for Shemus. And the deadlines that collection, these dates are not determined by CAP. These dates are determined by our IT department. So as I said earlier, your Shemus files are a snippet of your disbursements at that particular time, whenever your institution submits. So we know that by the time you submit your invoice, it could be different than what your snapshot of your institution disbursement. But in your next upload, those corrections should match what you submitted or the institution was paid out in an invoice. So these are the dates. Again, the technical colleges, your data will be transmitted to Shemus through the Technical College Office EDSS application system. These are just some frequently asked questions. This PowerPoint will be shared with you all, but these are just some frequently asked questions. You know, if you get locked out, what should you do? Who are the main points of contact about summer awarding? This information was also submitted to you all at the beginning of the fall semester, and I will submit it again at the beginning of the spring semester just to make sure everybody is on task of what they need to do as far as CAP for that upcoming semester.